welcome to another episode of Emerald Echo, a Green Lantern podcast. As always, I'm your host, Adam, and with me is my co-host, Donnie. Donnie, how's it going?
What's up, Lantern fans? It's the man who sells motor oil to the Manhunter robots as a side hustle. It's the Emerald Enthusiast.
I don't know how you come up with these every single time. You're going to have to come up with another introduction because we have a very special guest this week.
Do we ever?
All right, well, take it away. Who do we have?
Take it away. Listeners of the Emerald Echo, let me introduce a comic book legend. His work ranges from the Legion of Superheroes to Harkin's Raiders, but you will know him as the co-creator of the Torchbearer Kyle Rayner. It is my great honor to introduce Green Lantern royalty. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Darryl Banks.
Yay!
Very good, very good.
And the crowd goes wild. I'm waiting for this. I'm waiting for this comic legend to show up. Where is that person?
Oh.
Yeah, welcome, Darryl. Thanks for joining us. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
And we're both, Donnie and I, our favorite Green Lantern is Kyle, so it's extra special to have you here with us to discuss his first real story arc and run of his own. I mean, because the last few issues that we reviewed, he made a couple of small appearances, but this is the first full storyline with him. So it's good to have, and it's a pleasure to have you here with us. So thank you.
Glad to be here.
So Donnie, where would you like to start?
Well, I tell you, let's ask Darryl a little bit about the days that led up to this and about Kyle's creation before we jump into the story itself. So Darryl, what can you tell us about the time leading up to Kyle taking over as the titular character for Green Lantern?
What was interesting is that I was doing some fill-in work for Legion of Superheroes. That was my first DC work. And while doing that, I would just make comments here and there, just ideas I had for Green Lantern, but never thinking that would gain any traction anytime soon. And I was brand new there. Didn't know who I was. And so I thought about different things that I had been playing around with in my sketchbook as far as designs and concepts. And that would just come up, as a side note here and there in conversation, never knowing that the assistant editor on Legion was also the assistant editor on Green Lantern. So they were kind of keeping tabs on this guy, he might be something to consider. So actually when I first got the opportunity to work on Green Lantern, Kyle wasn't even fleshed out with. The whole idea was still in a real murky kind of situation where it was a different writer. What was his name? Gerald something. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Gerard Jones.
But, yeah, that's it. And so I actually did 6 pages until they just said, nope, this isn't working. This isn't what we want. We want to go further than this. So it was back to formula, and they brought on Ron Mars, and then it just really started to take off. And the funny thing is, I was in no position to make any requests, but I thought, well, you guys want to do a lot of changes, it seems like, but as long as you don't kill off Kilowog, I'll be fine with it. And I can picture the expression on my editor's face going, wow, should I tell him?
Because we just covered that the last episode, how blasting Kilowog to a skeleton.
Right.
Yeah, it's nice to know that the creative people behind the scenes are also in the same state as the reader, where it's please don't kill off this character, and then it happens, and then usually with the advent of the internet, there's usually an irrational reaction and all that kind of stuff ensues. But it was a shocker when we covered it too. So yeah. But that's pretty cool that it all started from you just sketching and having your own ideas, and then it morphed into that.
And Darryl, if I can ask you, I know in the past we've talked a little bit about Sunfire being the inspiration for Kyle's mask. Can you tell us any more about some of the other characters and influences you may have had in creating Kyle's look?
Well, keep in mind this was smack dab in the 90s, and excess was the order of the day, especially with what was going on in Image. And some of the early ideas I had for Kyle looked just like that. He looked so 90s it hurt. And so my editor Kevin Dooley was like, no, this is way too complicated. He was like, after 22 pages of this, you'll thank me. We kept it simple. And I just remember thinking, yeah, but I want him to look like, I want him to be like a cool guy. And it's like, we'll accomplish that, but we gotta make sure that what he creates is going to, get more attention than just what he looks like. Mm. But like I said, this was the 90s. This go back and find some old Wizard magazines, and you'll see what things were like. Yeah. So with Parallax, that was, I kind of knew right out of the gate what I wanted him to look like. I really only did one design, but then I did some alternates just almost to underscore this is the look that we should go with. And the only main difference from my first sketch was that he had the symbol on his chest at first. They said, no, get rid of that because it won't make sense. And of course, I hadn't seen the script yet, so I didn't get the time. Like, well, why wouldn't he have the symbol? Like, oh, now I see why he wouldn't have.
Yeah. Mm. Well, originally it would have made sense because the original concept was there to kind of be a war between factions of the Guardians, and Hal was going to break away and be called Protector. That was just kind of a working name. But then Ron came on board, and the two of you kind of, collaborated and took the story in a different way. And, you mentioned the 90s. I do want to say this. If not for you and Ron reinventing Green Lantern and making Kyle and taking the title in a fresh direction, Green Lantern really didn't have a place in comics at that time. You talk about all of these new, fresh, over-the-top characters. I don't think it was connecting, the older characters like Hal, who I like, and Guy, with the younger crowd at the time, because when you compare him to Overkill and Spawn and, Bad Rock and these other characters, it looked kind of dated. And what you guys did was reinvent Green Lantern and freshen him up.
I like to think of it as like we Marvelized him. As a kid, I liked some DC, but, I was, 98% Marvel growing up. So everything that I approached with, I thought about Marvel. So however, just because there were a lot of gimmicks at the time, we never approached it like a gimmick. We had a glow-in-the-dark cover for issue 50, but we didn't think of, this is going to be a cheap gimmick that'll get some spike the sales for a while, then it'll go back to normal afterwards. Mm-hmm. We approached it like we did comics that we would like to enjoy, and we figure if we had a good opinion of it, others would as well.
Well, it's funny from my perspective. I came in to Green Lantern in general late, and I started with a couple of trades, and my friend got me into Green Lantern, and the Green Lantern. He said, because the only exposure to Green Lantern that I had previously was the Justice League animated series. So when he said to me, he said, you should try Green Lantern, and I said, well, what do you mean, the guy from the cartoon with the ring and he's like, yeah, but it's kind of like the way he explained it. He's like Star Wars meets Superman with a little bit of Spider-Man in there, because he was a big fan of Kyle. That's when he had started reading Green Lantern. Kyle was the main Lantern. So and he told me what to start with. So I went and basically got a trade or two. And this was before like Rebirth happened, so I was doing a lot of catch up and like through like back issues and stuff, and then I come on to Rebirth and stuff. But so really my introduction came later, and one of the things I noticed as I was reading was that, like, the mask really caught my attention. Like it was so unique. It looked like so different. It wasn't your standard Domino mask or right. anything like that. And so that's just it really makes him distinct from all the other lanterns. And in general, the way I am, with the exception of Superman, my hero's gonna have a mask. Superman's the only one where I'm like, okay, no mask, I'll allow it. Like it's good. You're Superman. That's acceptable. But yeah, it's like I was captivated by the look, and then the stories. I get what I totally understand when you say you marvelize it, because there are elements of like Spider-Man there, like similarities where you can sort of.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, though I much buy, I buy Kyle, like having the girlfriends that he had as opposed to Peter Parker, because I'm like, really? Peter Parker's gonna date a model? I don't.
Right.
I don't buy that.
Well, can I ask you this, Darryl? Like, whose idea was it to come up? Who talked about Peter Parker as kind of influencing Kyle's early incarnations?
Well, when Ron had said that he wanted to have this young, inexperienced Lantern, I mean, Peter Parker is kind of the icon of that kind of a trope. You know what I mean? I mean, to the point where the whole, he needed a reason to be a hero. Just having powers wasn't motivation enough. And just like Peter Parker had Uncle Ben, I think we all know what Kyle's motivation ended up being. And so, yeah, there were a lot of parallels, and it was intentional. It wasn't one of those things where we tried to go like, oh, I don't see that similarity at all. Like, no, that was intentional. Really, the creative process influences a big part of that, and
Sure.
So I would definitely say that Peter Parker was an influence on Kyle Rayner.
Yeah, you can definitely see the parallels. I mean, that's why I tell people why this run is really my favorite run of any character in any comics, is because there is a fusion of so many elements here, and it's so beautiful, and the writing is so great. And for me, it was like experiencing so many types of fiction that I liked all at the same time. And obviously it made an impression on me because, here I am 26 years later, and, I'm talking to you, and Adam and I are doing this podcast, and I just can't get enough of this. No matter how many times I read this, it is still sublime.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's rereading it, because I haven't read this run like from the start of it, since I got into Green Lantern. So now I have all this, this further stuff and more stuff with Hal. So I have a different level of no, I'm not an expert like on this scale of Donnie, but I have more knowledge of the Green Lantern character and mythos. So it's like you see it through a different lens, and it's like one thing I take away with it, and I've been complaining about this for months and so forth, but I think when did the anniversary issue come out with the Kyle story?
That was
a couple months ago.
Yeah, that was just a couple of months ago. I remember I had when I was approached to do it. That was, we were deeping towards the beginning of the whole COVID thing, and I thought, are they even going to be able to publish comics? How will that work? But we did it, and I really like how it came out.
All I kept saying after I read the story, I was like, okay, they need to put Kyle back in the book, because this being gone and God knows where, and appearing in a handful of Titans issues, it doesn't work for me. Like I don't understand how they're not doing anything with the character. Like Hal's great and all, but it's just like the world is so expansive. And I'm not saying we need 10,000 different Lantern books, but what I've always told Donnie is that there should at minimum be two. Like you can have one solo book and one, a core book, but highlighting the other human Lanterns as the leads, right? I think there's a way you can, have each Lantern get the spotlight, and I think it's with this kind of rich mythology, you're not doing more than one book. I think there's something wrong there. So hopefully somebody over there says, yeah, we should bring Kyle back, because it was such a good book, and it felt like you guys just stepped back right into right into a rhythm, as if a day hadn't gone by.
I felt like it was going back to like a class reunion kind of a thing, but no one's really aged.
Yeah. Well, the characters don't. Everybody else does. But it's like, all right. But yeah, no, it was great. So, Donnie, is there anything else you wanted to specifically ask before we sort of dive into the three stories?
No, I think there's so much we can ask him as we go along here. So let's dive right in with issue number 51, story called "Changing of the Guard." So, Darryl, what can you tell us about the earliest drawings that you did for this?
Let's see, issue 51. Well, I remember beginning with the cover. Not really. I had an idea of I wanted to show he was originally from L.A., but the I was told by someone who lived there, like, oh, well, that view isn't really accurate. And I'm thinking, pretty sure I used reference because not like I would know what that looked like. But I know I wanted to have it feel like it was a mirror in some ways to issue 50. Like it all ends here and it all begins here. And with Kyle at first, he still had the default Green Lantern costume, and I thought, well, when do we get to, when do I get to the part where we use this redesigned suit? And honestly, a lot of people like that first reveal page, but looking back, it's like, wow, I almost wish I had used a different pose, but it kind of fitted his personality, like him doing this Mr. Universe thing.
Well, obviously, I mean, I like it because I have, two graded copies of it,
but I remember every chance I got. Oh no, go ahead. I was just thinking there was something I put in there that probably I'm surprised that they were okay with. I gave Alex an LA Raiders jersey, and you really can't put copyrighted stuff like that in comics just to that degree. But my reasoning was I wanted to underscore that they were in California, especially I wanted you to be able to tell, when he went to New York, you would see a difference, and of course, all this is whatever I can put together because I didn't have a computer then, and I definitely wasn't traveling. So it's like kind of what I imagined LA and New York to look like, just based on books and things I could find. But other than that, the first villain, Ohm, that was, I mean, it was a throwaway, and it kind of, thinking back, it kind of looked like it. I thought, well, why does he even look like that? Like, well, with those cords hanging off the helmet, I think maybe I was watching a Predator movie or something like that. Or
well, I did notice that. Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute, it looks kind of like Predator, which is not a bad thing. But you said you called him a throwaway, but I kind of like that the aspect of it.
I always thought, well, wouldn't it be fun if he showed up again? But he never did.
Yeah, like to me, it felt like the fact that you say throwaway, it reminds me of like a video game where you start with different, like you start off with a villain, and each villain before you get to the big bad,
right.
There's degrees of difficulty, right? So
it's like a sub boss.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right, this is just like level 1. It's all right. I mean, he shouldn't be that difficult to dispatch. Right. But I gotta say, rereading this, it's really, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's really weird to see Kyle in the traditional Lantern outfit.
Yeah.
Like it took a while for me to get you. It's like, wait a minute, now I gotta recalibrate where I am in the story again. It's like I'm going back to the beginning. Okay, this is normal, but it doesn't last too long. But it was, but I loved the idea of him going, like when he realizes he has these, when he's trying to figure out what to do with his ring and all this power, that he goes back to a loved one. Like I love the fact that it's like immediately he's going for advice, so you get that sense of he's not an expert. He's not, we're not dealing with a Barry Allen or a Superman who knows what they're doing. Like, this is a guy that's just like he's overwhelmed, and you could tell, and I like that. And even with the like certain expressions that you give him, you can get a sense of he's out of his element. So I really,
Yes,
I really like that. I really like that aspect of it, and I like the fact that we're as Kyle's beginning his story, we're experiencing the ups and downs with him, and that's, I think, part of the appeal of the character. At least for me,
That's
it
what
was.
we were going for. It's almost like the reader will learn as he learns.
Right. Yeah. And
Well, and you hit the ground running with that, Darryl, because the first image we see is Kyle getting tossed into a department store between all this lingerie, and so you guys immediately were like, "We're going to put this guy in danger. He doesn't know what he's doing," and he says that, "My name's Kyle Rayner, and I don't know what I'm doing."
yeah. Yeah, it was pretty. It was a good way to start the issue. It really man, no pun intended, but it really throws you into the scenario.
Literally.
Yeah. And I do want to ask. I got to ask Darryl this. I noticed that the way you did the credits, you put your own name and Ron Mars and everybody else, and I also noticed your nickname Bankster on one of the buildings.
Did I? I haven't looked at it in a while. Did I? Yeah, it's funny. I probably did.
Yeah, yes, you did.
This is why Donnie's a co-host on this show. He picks up on these things.
Picks up on that.
Yeah.
Now here's another bit of a tiny Easter egg. As an anime fan, the window he's throwing into the lingerie shop. It's actually Silky Doll. Now Silky Doll is to fans of Bubblegum Crisis that one of the members of the Night Sabers, she has the laundry. Silky Doll, so it's kind of like, this is the American branch of Silky Doll. So if you see the sign, it's like, well, why does that say that? Well, that's a little Easter egg there.
Yeah, that's cool.
I would have never picked up on that. That's cool. And I love like what I enjoyed about it was that you like, even he's the Green Lantern. He's got this ring, and as soon as they approach, the danger area, he's being told, stay in the car and don't do anything stupid. So you're already getting the sense of he's not the most what's the word I'm looking for?
Capable, yeah.
Responsible, yeah. like it's like, yes, we're dealing with a 20-something person, but it's not like he's not the most level-headed adult who can, he's still, and it's just the relationship between the two of them is great to watch play out, and it's not unrealistic is what I'm trying to get at. Like, it's a relationship that you could probably either watch play out in real life or experience yourself, which adds to the book.
I think so.
Darryl, can I ask you this question? Alexandra DeWitt she is absolutely beautiful the way you drew her. Do you have any particular inspiration for her?
No, not at all. And I tend to like to fan cast characters I draw, but some I just either never got around to it or just couldn't find someone that inspired me to base them on. Like, for example, believe it or not, I never really found someone who I had for Kyle. Kyle, I just had to always make it up, and I always regretted that. I'm like, the main character, I just never found that person that kind of I wanted to use as a jumping off point or as a foundation. Now, for Hal, it was easy. My Hal Jordan is Dennis Quaid.
Oh, okay.
If you've ever seen the movie Enemy Mine, where he's in the jumpsuit, I mean, that's Hal Jordan. Or if you've ever seen, I guess it was a romantic comedy with Wilder Napalm, where he's got the flaming powers. I mean, that's Parallax, the crazy Hal. So it's like you get both versions of Dennis Quaid and the two stages of Hal Jordan. If you ever see those two, go, oh yeah, I can see that. So for him, that was easy, but for Kyle and Alex, not really.
So now, years later, if I asked you, do you have somebody in mind that you would like? If Hollywood came to you tomorrow and said, all right, we're gonna, and this is highly unlikely because Warner Brothers and the whole 9 yards, but if they came to you and said, we're gonna put Kyle Rayner in the movie, who would you cast? Would you have somebody in mind for
I
those
do
two
not.
characters? No, interesting.
Boy, I wish I did. I maybe see some auditions or something, but there's nobody in my mind where I'm thinking, this guy, that's Kyle. You know, it might be an unknown. Just, you know, when I was a kid and the Superman movie came out,
Yeah.
even though he had previous credits, I'd never heard of Christopher Reeve, so
Right.
that was great. So in my mind, he was Superman. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, I don't know where this guy is from. Obviously, Superman isn't real, but because he was an unknown to me, that added to it. So
Yeah,
I think
it's an
they
easier
cast an
sell. I
unknown.
agree with you with that for sure. It's certainly an easier thing to. But yeah, I even me, who's now like, you know, we've seen so many superhero shows and movies. I can't even think of an actor that say, yeah, okay, that's the guy I'd pick. Like there's not one that I would say, you know, that's my fan cast. So yeah,
An unknown would be good, I think.
Yeah.
Darryl, I've always wanted to ask you this question. You know, in Kyle shows up right after we see Kyle battling Ohm. We see him go to, you know, the scene cuts to Alexandra's apartment, and she says, you know, why should I let you in at this late hour? And he kind of gives her this smoldering look, and he's like, because you can't resist me. I always wonder, when you were dating Deidre, did you give her that look? Were you ever like, hey, I'm the Bankster Baby?
Absolutely not. I would love the right answer should have been, oh, of course. I'm always just an irresistible guy to women. Like, but then the reality is, no, I was not like that.
That's too funny.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
I wish I did.
That's good. But even just like going to the just to comment on the, you know, the big reveal page where we see him in, wait, am I jumping? Did I jump an issue? No, it's the reveal issue. It's the reveal page where we first see him in his you know, new suit, in the new outfit. That is such a, like, when I think of superhero reveals, it's such a unique shot. Like the beach setting, behind the, you know, they're standing on the beach, and it's just like something that you'd never think of as like your stereotypical or traditional, you know, big superhero reveal. So I really like he's doing the whole. Of course, I think there's, in terms of his pose with the muscle flexing, is that a wrestling influence there?
That, you know, honestly, that was, I couldn't think of what to do. I didn't want him to look. I didn't want him to look too dramatic and heroic, because that's just not. He wasn't there yet, and I thought, well, you know, this is a guy. He's still not really taking us that seriously. So he would just, you know, obviously he's got the suit. He probably, with the ring, he might give himself a little bit more of a six pack or whatever. So he's kind of doing a little flex or whatever. I'm like, yeah, that'll work. You know, not really wrestling. Although after he fights Ohm and he's got one foot on his chest, that was from the famous Ultimate Warrior with his foot on Randy Savage after
WrestleMania.
At WrestleMania 7. That's where
I noticed that one. I'm like, all right, I know what this is.
But there's also Ric Flair and Sting are in the background in the crowd saying, congratulating her. That might be a little hard to pick them out, but
no, Sting has the sunglasses on. He's in the crowd. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'm just noticing that now. Oh my God, yeah. That's so cool. How did I not see that before? That's crazy.
You know, with the wrestling, it all started with when I was doing Legion stuff. I had Big Van Vader in a background of an alien crowd scene, and I figure no one would be able to pick him out because, you know, it's not like it was Hulk Hogan or Andre the Giant. And the assistant editor goes, "That's Vader," and I'm thinking, "How did you know?" He goes, "We're in New York City, and we're right down the street from Madison Square Garden. Yeah, we know who Big Van Vader is." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" So I said, "Is that okay?" I said, "Yeah, that's fine." And so I got an opportunity to do a pinup of some Legion characters fighting. I said, "Well, can I have?" It was a Ultra Boy versus the Persuader, and I had him put the abdominal stretch on him, you know, and they loved it. And so any chance I can put some wrestling in there, they were fine with.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And although, you mentioned Hulk Hogan, although this is down the road, this is not in this issue. One of the times that Major Force kicked Kyle in the face, it definitely seemed to be Hulk Hogan. Yeah. What way were you using? Yeah.
You did the big boot. Yeah, that's right.
That was totally it. You're the first person that picked up on that. You were absolutely the first person to pick up on that.
And there was a DDT, there was a double arm overhead choke, and there was also an elbow drop. A couple times you seem to use Macho Man as an inspiration for an elbow drop pose.
Well, the only time I was really concerned about wrestling was in issue 50 with the final battle with Hal and Sinestro, where he DDTs him, camel clutches him, and then kills him with the sleeper. I thought, there's no way. I just did it just to see if I could get away with it. And they're like, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, really? A DDT? Yeah. And so I thought they were going to say, that cheapens the moment. It's not serious enough. They left it. It's all there.
I think we mentioned some wrestling maneuvers in the last episode, didn't we? Donnie? I think we noticed.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that why it made such an impact on me is because you didn't see these kinds of moves depicted before, and it was so different. I was like, he's using wrestling moves here. Hal Jordan is using wrestling moves, and then Kyle, he's using wrestling moves. It was so just amazing to see this drawn for the first time in a superhero comic.
See, it's funny because I wasn't reading back when they were coming out monthly, so it's like I got a kick out of it like after the fact, when I started reading in the early 2000s. But had I started reading then, at the height of my, watching wrestling like every chance I could get, I would have been over the moon with that. So yeah, it's because you can even see it in, but at least I see it. Maybe it's just my seeing what I want to see. But in 52, the cover of 52, there you could see like a reverse bear hug kind of thing going on by the look of it. At least that's what it looks like to me.
You would be correct.
Yeah. So it's like, and as soon as I'm like, oh yeah, Mongo giving him a bear hug. All right, there's another. It's like we should start Donnie. I don't know about you, but as we go through this run, maybe we should start a drinking game every time we see a wrestling maneuver.
Every time you see
in the book.
We only drink water though, so yeah, we promote a healthy lifestyle here.
So our livers won't hate us too much. But yeah, is there anything you want to key in on, Donnie, from issue 51 that we haven't kind of touched?
No, we do see at the end of 51 that Mongol is he's broken out of the slab and he swears to go kill Green Lantern and Superman, and the reverse bear hug that you're talking about, that's the cover to issue 52. So that's why we see that.
Yeah.
So Darryl, I noted that on this issue it was co-drawn with Steve Carr and Jamal Igle. So can you tell me and tell the listeners a little bit about what it's like to work with other artists on the same issue?
When you're young, slow, and lack confidence, you need help. And that was me all over during that. It amazes me I was on the book that long. I mean, there's no way that when you mentioned Green Lantern in the 90s, you can't go without mentioning guys like Paul Pelletier, Jeff Johnson, even Jamal Igle's pages, even Steve Carr. I mean, the thing is, I used to be so concerned, like they're just going to give the book to those guys. They're better and faster, etc. But the DC management they stuck in there with me and through thick and thin, and I'm glad they did. But I just think about how it was great seeing these other artists take on it and how they struggled with the mask and everything. but they did an amazing job. All of them did.
Now, I don't know if you drew this page, Darryl, but in the issue, where there's the credit, like there's the credits of writer, artist, editor, and all that stuff. The way it was placed in like what looks to be like film reel. I thought
that was Steve Carr. I think that was Steve Carr. Yeah.
Was that his decision or was that a collaborative decision? Because I thought that was quite a clever
that was way. Probably between him and Ron. I just remember seeing those
Okay.
And I just remember going, "Oh boy, that sure is nice." It's kind of like
it was
the race
really
in the
cool.
bar. It's kind of like,
it was really cool.
it
I was
great.
like, wow.
I like that motorcycle as well.
Yeah, and the whole aspect of him, like seeing what he can do and posing for pictures. It remind now. It's kind of the reverse effect, but it reminded me of those scenes in the Shazam movie where he's testing his powers and Freddy's videotaping, which to me I thought that was one of the funnest parts of the movie. So I was like, oh, this is cool. I would like, again, if they ever did anything with Kyle in live action, can we have this kind of recreated? I think that would be really fun to do. But
Well,
yeah.
so can I ask you a question here, Darryl? Whose decision was it to draw Alex, to have Kyle create a construct of Alex in the bikini?
Oh, that was also Ron and Steve Carr. And, she smacks him like, what are you doing now? She wasn't really upset. That's kind of like that whole, couples thing that, pretend conflict type of thing. But, once again, I thought that was great.
And that's something that's what I was mentioning earlier, in the sense that it feels like a everyday relationship. It doesn't feel like something that's forced or manufactured. You could buy these two people just being a normal everyday couple.
That was actually almost a problem, because people were really starting to get attached to Alex. And it was kind of like, yeah, but she's Uncle Ben. She's her days are numbered. And it's kind of like, I remember my editor was saying, like, we got a lot of letters, with what we did with Hal, but we got way more over the death of Alex. And Hal Jordan had been around since 1961 or whenever it was, and Alex
1959. Yeah,
59. So, but with Alex, she had made 3 appearances? Yeah, for 3. I don't think it was 4 issues.
Yeah.
But my point was, she was almost too well fleshed out. But see, once again, if she felt like a real throwaway character, her death wouldn't have had any impact.
Yeah. And it's funny, when I saw the page of him creating the construct of her, I'm like, well, I can't blame him. I would have done the same thing.
Right.
Like, if you would have given me a ring, I'm not gonna lie, I would have done something similar. So I was fist bumping because I'm reading the digital version, so I was fist bumping the screen. I'm like, hey, yeah, we the same wavelength. But it's fun to watch him. One of the things I'm curious about, just in general, but is creating the constructs for him, because it's weird. All the stuff that he's created over the years, it feels weird to see him holding a sword and a shield. It's like, that's it. I'm so used to him, creating all these other fancy, crazy things. It's like, really? Oh, okay, that's unique. So, like, what goes into, as an artist on Green Lantern? How hard is it to come up with what's he going to create with the ring?
Oh, it's actually pretty easy. What's funny is that I gave an idea to myself, is to always try to make the ring creations more visually interesting, because growing up, I was aware of the great Neil Adams and his work on Green Lantern, but the ring creations were just okay. The artwork was just a masterpiece, but boxing glove, vacuum sweeper. So I thought, let's make what he creates very visually stunning. Mm-hmm. And so my editor goes, well, I want to make a mandate where if Kyle creates a shield 2 issues in a row, the shield can't be the same. I'm thinking, done. Like, okay, this issue, it's a medieval shield, and the next time it's got to be a giant turtle shell, or after that it's got to be an anime-looking shield, and after that, a giant hubcap. Who knows? But it just can't be the same creation, even if it's performing the same function.
Yeah, no, it's something I've always wondered, because I'm like, first of all, I can't draw to save my life, so I would never have the talent to do what you guys do. But to come up with stuff like for every issue, I don't know if I would be able to. To manage, it's like, well, I don't know how they do it. So anytime an artist, is doing Green Lantern, I always give them the extra props, because it's like that's an added thing that they've got to deal with. Whereas if you're drawing Superman, it's pretty much you know what you're gonna get into when you're drawing Superman. Yeah. He's got to fly. He's got the heat vision. Maybe the freeze breath. But it's pretty much all right. I know what I'm doing here. Whereas with Green Lantern, it's like it literally like the ring is basically at the mercy of the artist's imagination. So whatever you can think of. And I really like the Major Force introduction, like or like his first appearance on the scene here in the prison riot kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That was a really cool, visually striking appearance. Like, really caught me. I stopped and stared at that image for a while. It was.
I do want to interject though, as far as the constructs go. That's something that really, attracted me to Kyle, is because it's like you say, Darryl. I had seen, I'd read so many Green Lantern comics before that, but you were the first person to let us know that Kyle's imagination was like unlimited, and you could see that in the constructs. It's like that told so much of the story of who Kyle was without the dialogue. I mean, Ron wrote some wonderful dialogue, but you told us so much about Kyle's mind through those constructs that it was just a wonderful experience.
Oh, thanks. That's what we were going for, because, really, if you can take 10 people and give them all power rings, and they would probably start to construct a lot of different things, really based on things that matter to them, things that entertain them, or just whatever's on the forefront of their mind, almost like word association, the first thing that pops into your mind,
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's just very impressive how what you guys come up with for the ring to create, and we even see a continuation of after the sort of Mongol breakout scene. We're back on the beach area, and it's Kyle sort of honing his ability with the ring, and he's creating motorcycles and stuff. So I like I said, I like the fact that you both really emphasized his novice kind of status, and the fact that he's not an expert. I think that makes him more relatable. As somebody who just had come into Green Lantern, I didn't have all the history with Hal and what I think I remember. I didn't even pick up the issues preceding it. I picked up starting with, I'm pretty sure it was 51.
Oh, okay.
that I started with. So I didn't have all the background of, okay, this is what happened with Hal, this is all this stuff. It was just, here's the guy, here's the ring. And it was, the way it was written was like, you guys gave us enough that I could jump in and not be overwhelmed with what the heck is going on here.
Yeah, we wanted a good jumping on point so that people would feel like, I don't have to go back very far to be able to, really identify with the characters and enjoy the story.
Because back then, correct me if I'm wrong, they both DC and Marvel didn't have that, weren't as trigger happy with the let's go back to number one scenario.
Right.
Whereas now it seems like every 2 years it's like, all right, here's a new number one, because which is a pain when you're trying to organize your collection, and it's like, okay, wait a minute, where's this again? It's like, so, but yeah, no, it's the fact that you made it so accessible is a testament, because like I said, I was coming in, the only exposure I had was Justice League the animated series, and that was John. Mm-hmm. So it was like, all right, I'm just.
So Darryl, let me ask you, the end of 52 is the big battle when Mongol arrives on the beach to take his revenge on Superman, and who he thinks is Hal Jordan. Obviously it's not Hal, but were you excited to draw Mongol?
I was, but even more for Superman, although it was mullet Superman. But I thought having Kyle meet, these superheroes, it was almost like like me meeting Superman. It's kind of like I felt like it legitimized the characters. Like, he's meeting, one of the cornerstone characters for the company. And I remember thinking, what if one day, who knows, 30 years from now, Kyle ends up in the Justice League. Never know. I mean, at the time, that was just not even discussed. Kyle in the Justice League, but we know that eventually happened. But that was the furthest thing. I'd never imagined that we would get that far with the character. But having him meet with Superman, drawing Mongol was great because that was a Jim Starlin designed character, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a whole other conversation, of my opinion, of the great Jim Starlin and his contribution to the industry.
Wow.
And I do like that page where Alex is kind of standing in between Kyle and Mongol. And like, even her, she's got no in that moment, no trepidation, no fear. It's just like you have this overbearing physical monster. And she's just in between them, like, oh yeah, it's like I have to protect Kyle, and it's just again, what really strikes me about that page is the facial expressions. It sells the emotion that you're supposed to get out of it, and so it's.
I'm always critical of my facial expression. That's something to this day I'm just trying to really get better at to my own satisfaction, really.
Well, I really appreciated what you did on that, especially in that last page. There was it got the job done, so it was good. And then you mentioned it, so I guess is there anything you want to mention about 52, Donnie, or are we kind of bleeding?
Well, I think we're ready to jump into the big battle with Superman is issue 53, and Darryl did get Superman for the cover, and I have all three of these autographed up on a shelf. But you had to feel validated, Darryl, that here's Superman, we're going to bring him on board. So that had to be something that was exciting for you. Tell us about your feelings about when you were first told, hey, Superman's going to be part of this. And what were the discussions like with Ron and Romeo at the time?
We were thinking about, we're off to the races where we're going with this character. Now, believe it or not, I was, really blown away that Superman was in it, but I was also thinking, what's next? He's met Superman. I felt like he was validated in the story and also at the company. They weren't just thinking, oh, it's just over. I had no idea how long Kyle would stick around. If I had to guess, I'd say, when working on the book, I figured, well, if we can get, I think, 2 good years out of this character before he, heads into the sunset, I think would be, we could call it a good success. But, never knowing that in 2020 he's still around, sort of. But at the time, I had no idea. So, it was kind of like, as much we can have him do some interesting things, the better. But with once again, we wanted to show things show the reader how the character was progressing. And I remember I was at a show and someone said, I was at a Jerry Ordway panel and he referenced your work. And I thought they were kidding. I said, Jerry Ordway was someone I used to show my work trying to break in the industry. And so I went over to him. I felt like I didn't believe the person, but I just went over just to say hi. And he goes, "Oh, Darryl Banks, I was just talking about you." I'm like, it was such a fulfilling mentioning. I learned, and so talking about the Kyle creates the Amtrak, but called it Slam Track.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, it's written on the side, Slam Track.
Yeah.
I don't think that was in the script. I think just Kyle creates something and hits Mongol. I thought, well, I didn't want to just make a big hammer, a big fist. I'm like, okay, well, how about a train? I'm almost like Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. Just crazy over the top thing too.
And also, I don't know if you intended it, but with the train, I thought it was a nice nod to the whole the Superman thing where it's what is he more powerful than a locomotive?
Powerful.
Yeah, I don't know if that was
I was thinking of that. I use it. So yeah, I was thinking of a parallel between those two ideas. Like, no, actually, I didn't. But I like that. I like that comparison.
Yeah, because as I was reading it, I'm like, oh, okay, more powerful than I get it, but that's not what it was at all. But we'll just go with it. I do like the page when basically Kyle's coming back into the fight, and so like Superman and Mongo are kind of in the midst of a fight, and then Kyle's about to come down and sort of attempt to this big move. That's a great shot, and then he ends up like face first in the water. So it doesn't necessarily work out for him because he gets slammed down pretty good by Monk. That's just a great image. And you said earlier that you were some anime or manga influences. You could I could definitely see them specifically in like the Mongol Superman kind of interactions. Like
really?
I get those vibes in certain panels anyway. Not all of them, but there are some some that really spark that look. So, and then the way I just gotta say, because you mentioned the mullet, the way you draw it, it's not so much mullet as it is just longer hair, which I was kind of discussing with Donnie before we called him, like and Donnie was pointing out, depends who draws it. Sometimes it was a mullet, sometimes it was just longer hair. So, but again, it's a look that I never mind. Like I know some people complain about, quote unquote mullet Superman. It's a look that I never minded. Like it never.
The thing is, I always thought it was funny that Superman gets longer hair the exact same time Clark Kent does, and still no one is making that connection.
Yeah, that's more of the concerning. That's more of the concerning part. Is like, wait a minute, he works with a bunch of reporters.
Not very good ones, I guess.
Not one of them. Okay, Lois. No, I think at this point she knew. Yeah, because he had died and come back. Yeah, so she knew.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. But never mind Lois, but the rest of them, I mean, the editor of the Daily Planet has no idea. It's like, really? What kind of sham of a paper are you people running? Like, you can't. But and that's me saying that the Superman's one of my favorite characters. But it's just like, come on, they both have long hair. How can you not figure it out? But. The part where you say that meeting Superman kind of legitimizes and Kyle, you really get that sense of like just having, as a reader, just reading where Superman says you're quite capable of the ring or something to that effect. Like you could you're right, it is the sort of acceptance handshake kind of deal that you're part of the crew, like you belong here, right? So and again, I Kyle's kind of like reaction, the starstruck reaction that he has to Superman is something that I think a lot of comic book audiences are missing now, and I wish they'd kind of sort of emphasize to kind of get that back, because like I say, you're dealing with 2/3 of my favorite characters, my favorite heroes in this book, with Superman and Green Lantern. Batman is the other one, but he's not here yet, but not so yet. Yeah, so it was refreshing to see another character have that reverence for Superman, and the way you described it of, like, that would be if you were meeting Superman, that would be your reaction as well. So it was really cool to see that play out as a fan of that character as well. So yeah, I think it worked really well. And I'm trying to think what else? Then what did you?
Well, I definitely want to ask Darryl this. At what point did DC let you know that you would be doing away with the yellow impurity? Because we see Mongol try to use a yellow energy beam to beat Kyle to get the upper hand, and of course it doesn't work. So can you tell us a little bit about that development with the character, Darryl?
That was something that we, even in the planning stages, that we knew from the beginning that would be one of his abilities. That because of how his ring was formed, because the yellow impurity has to be put into the ring, and Ganthet didn't have time to do that. So we had discussed that from the beginning, but we weren't really sure, how we would showcase that. But we would we kind of let it progress, organically. What would be a good time to show that. But we knew from the beginning that he would have that. He would not be vulnerable to yellow. And also, he doesn't need to recharge his ring every 24 hours. That was something else that changed. It was more based on how much energy he's used. It's more like, stored energy as opposed to, 24 hours, no matter how much, how recently he charged the ring, it would just go away. And that kind of never made sense. But I mean, I guess it did. But, we didn't want him to have that. It's more like he could go a week if he hadn't been using the ring,
And I have to say, I thank you guys for doing that, because reading the older issues, like for this podcast, and it's like every second page, there's the editor's note of, okay, the ring has a yellow impurity, and so you get it. It's like, yeah, I know. Like, I mean, it must have been great in 1959 and 1960 when the character was still new, but reading those back and being like, oh, here it is again, the reminder that yes, he's getting impurity. All right, good. So I'm glad that I don't have to, at least now that we're reviewing Kyle, I don't have to deal with that.
I think for Hal, they wanted to give him a kryptonite.
Yeah.
So because he was so powerful, but see, with Kyle, his kryptonite is his inexperience. He doesn't have the same limitations, but his limitations are mental.
Yeah. No, but yeah, like I said, as a reader, I thank you for doing away with that, because it gets frustrating seeing. Okay, yes, we know, we got it, we're good.
Well, and one of the things I want to say here too, Darryl, there was a panel in this issue. It's Superman uppercutting Mongol, and the energy that you can see with what you drew. You almost feel Mongol taking this punch, because Superman hits him hard, and the body position of Mongol is, oh my gosh, Superman just almost knocked his block off.
Yeah.
So it's just a beautiful image.
That's what I mean. There's a reverence for Superman, like in the writing and in the art, which is so great. Like as a fan of that character, it's wonderful to see. And so yeah, it's really appreciated. And so when just as a question, when you are drawing Superman, did you ever get the sort of did you ever feel the desire to sort of like have him look similar to Christopher Reeve, or did you just like, no, I'm just gonna do my own take on it? Like, because I know when some people draw him, they he looks like when Gary Frank draws him, he's drawing.
That was the example I was going to use. Gary Frank has got that down to a science.
It's uncanny.
I don't know how he does it so well.
It's uncanny. Really, it's like, geez, it's kind of freaky.
I mean, I consider him an influence as well. But back then, Superman was just more like just draw him as iconic and as confident as possible, because that's who he is. But as far as the Christopher Reeve influence, no, I wasn't on that level yet. Honestly, I think only Gary Frank can really pull that off.
Oh yeah.
Well, can I ask you this, Darryl? Was there ever a character you wanted to draw whom you didn't get to draw?
Oh, I would imagine. Or maybe characters I drew and wished I could have drawn more. And the Flash probably topping that list. The Flash and probably Captain Marvel or Shazam. I think being able to play in the I still call him Captain Marvel. That's how I know. But being able to play in that sandbox would have been a blast. The Flash, it was more like I just was never fast enough, ironically. When I did get to draw him in the book, I wanted to do him the way George Perez used to do it in Justice League, where he wouldn't just draw one figure and a bunch of lines behind it. He would draw like every stride, so it was like a whole bunch of flashes behind him. And to me, that just them seem so much faster, you know. And I would love to be able to get a chance to draw the Flash the way I really wanted to, you know.
Yeah, that would be it would be something unique to see more of your take on the Flash for sure. I'd be up for it, and I know Donnie would champion that as well.
Definitely. So, that kind of brings us to the end of these 3 issues. Kyle's first big battle here with, a long-standing DC villain. So, Darryl, what are you working on these days?
Well, my plates consist of I'm a commercial artist for a company called Hawthorne Village. It's a division of the Bradford Exchange. You can follow them on Instagram and see some of their products. They make a lot of porcelain villages, and they use a lot of licensed property things. I've been working with them for about 14 years now. The great thing about working with Hawthorne is that I never know what they're going to have me draw next. I mean, I've worked on, we've done some Marvel stuff. We've done some DC stuff. We've done Nightmare Before Christmas, Pirates of the Caribbean,
Nice.
the NFL, homages to the military. I mean, it's more like, my part of it is more conceptual, but, you look at their products, a lot of keepsake type of things, from something that's like comedy to things that like keepsakes or memorial type of things, a wide spectrum. And I've always loved doing that sort of thing. And also do a lot of commission work. But comics wise, my co-creator of Harkins Raiders, Alan Corddry, he has a sword and sorcery story he's put together called Sword of Freya. And so both myself and a few other artists were, doing a group of pages, and he's kind of putting together a sort of a pitch, not so much a Kickstarter, but I think he wants to, see if it can be picked up by a company. So that's what's pretty much keeping me busy at the moment. Awesome. I would say comic conventions, but that kind of came to a grinding halt for a while, unfortunately.
Yeah, they stopped there. 2020 stopped that in a hurry. Hopefully sooner rather than later, that'll get back to some level of consistency once we've got this. So. Once we've got this mess, manageable.
Yeah.
It would definitely, if you ever got a chance to come back down my way, it'd be a pleasure to meet you and shake your hand. So that's for sure. So hopefully that can happen one day,
well, I would really like to say this too. If before we end this podcast, I want to tell our listeners a little bit about the first time I met Darryl, and it was 2017. It was in Lexington, Kentucky, and I had read Green Lantern for so many years, and I knew his name, and I had seen him in a couple magazines. But I remember, it was a very big Comic-Con, and rounding this corner, and there he was, and I was like, my knees unhinged. I was so nervous. Yeah, like my sweat starts to go down my back. Like one of my daughters was like, "Yeah, I could even see like sweat on your forehead." And my hands were shaking. My mouth goes dry. I mean, we're talking, fanboy sweat here too. So a whole different level of sweat. And
it's the ugly kind.
and I remember, what's funny is we're all fans of something. I mean, yeah. Donnie, what you described is when I first met the original suit actor for Ultraman, and I was the same way. Like, there he is.
And they say don't meet your heroes, you'll always be disappointed. That was the exact opposite that day. You were so wonderful to me, and and honestly, I'm tearing up right now thinking about it. When it was over with, just that 10 minutes out of your life, I went into another room because it was a really big, civic center that we were in there. Mm-hmm. And I sat down near a windowsill and I started to cry a little bit because it was just such a wonderful experience. And to have come to know you and to see, to have come to know your family online, and to just, you are such a wonderful person. And thank you for blessing my life and Adam's life and all of the Green Lantern fans around the world with your wonderful talent, sir.
Well, Donnie, I have to say the feeling is mutual, and Adam, is definitely a pleasure meeting you as well. One thing I have to say to the viewers and fans is that I wouldn't be here without support. in general, whether it's the fans, whether it's my family, etc. And I will always be appreciative of that. Always, always, always.
That's a fantastic story, Donnie. I'm glad you got that experience. Despite your emotion, I'm still gonna steal something from your room there, your Green Lantern. Has Darryl seen that room?
He has seen some of it, yes. There's a lot of different places online I have put stuff before, but yeah, he's seen a lot of, and it's a lot of the prints are his. It's his art and his autographs. So
I'm getting a crew together, Darryl, and I'm gonna go there one night and just take a couple things.
Well, it's funny when you meet a collector that has great things. I remember when I got the opportunity to visit Terry Austin at his home, and I was like in a theme park, the amazing things that he's collecting. Because he's a big toy guy just like I am, and it's kind of like, oh man, you're thinking like, if you ever want to get rid of any of this stuff,
That's great. Yeah, no, it's. I was impressed when he showed me his collection. I'm like, that's impressive. It's. But no, this was a pleasure, Darryl. Thank you again for joining us. Hopefully we can have you back sometime to discuss further down the run as we go through it.
I look forward to it.
And but if people want to keep in touch on social media, where can they do that? Let's do social media plugs.
My Twitter, I'm at Real Bankster, and my Instagram, I'm GL Prime.
Awesome. And Donnie, if they want to get in touch with you, where can they do that?
You can find me as the Emerald Enthusiast on Twitter. I do a lot of first of all, I do a lot of retweets of Darryl's art because it's awesome. Mm-hmm. And I do a lot of Green Lantern product reviews. And I'm always down to talk about Green Lantern. I'm down to talk about comics. Anything along those lines, just hit me up and we can have a conversation.
Fantastic. And if you want to talk to me on Twitter, it's Adam_LeafsFan. And hit me up there and we can you can be part of my crew to raid Donnie's room, but we'll talk about that via private message because don't want to put that out there on the timeline.
How about for now we all just go have a cup of coffee and a few sandwiches?
Yeah, that works too. But and then we have the Facebook page, the Multiverse Musings Podcast Network Facebook page. Go there, ask for permission to join the group, and either myself or one of my other co-hosts will add you. Until next time, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you next time. So long, everybody.